DJ PK. We're joined now by Jay Paterno. Jay, welcome to the show.
Good to be on, guys.
He is the Nittany Game Week host, analyst, and, of course, a former Penn State assistant coach, and you probably recognize the last name Paterno. So there you go. Obviously, we're sitting here in Utah, and we're hearing all of this about Kalani Sitake and Penn State. I'm wondering what it sounds like at Penn State and how it's landing with the Penn State fan base.
Well, the Penn State fan base right now, it's interesting because we're in day 51. We were one of the first schools out to fire the coach, and now we're probably one of the last ones standing. So there's a lot of impatience right now. Terry Smith, who was the interim head coach, has done a great job in the 6 weeks, almost beat, a miracle catch away from beating Indiana, loses to Iowa by 1 on the road, and then wins the last 3. So there was a lot of sentiment among the fan base for hiring Terry Smith, but that does not seem to be what the administration is thinking. So certainly there's a lot of curiosity. Not a lot of people out here know that much about BYU. And here, I thought you guys wanted me to come on and give you a breakdown of the Big 12 championship game.
We wouldn't mind that.
Listen, I like BYU's chances Saturday. I really do.
It's unfortunate in that sense that the Kalani Sitake story to Penn State supersedes the actual game on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate of where we are in college football. It's until, I'm on the board of trustees at Penn State, and I've had discussions with other Big Ten trustees about at some point it's time for the governing bodies of these schools to try and sit down and really remake, we don't want to get into who's hired as coach and all that kind of stuff, but it's time to remake the calendar to be realistic about what we are. And that's just not happening. But I certainly hope that for BYU's sake, whatever's going on, that the team focuses, goes out and plays a really good game. I think, you look at the last game when they played, if BYU doesn't turn the ball over and they're better on third downs, they probably got a chance to beat them. They did a great job against Texas Tech's offense, which is incredible. But they handed them 6 points, and I still can't get around number 47 running around a quarterback. I mean, I remember Flutie wearing 22, and that was, I'm old enough to remember Flutie wearing 22, and that was like, wow, that's an ugly quarterback number. But this is beyond. But no, look, I hope that they focus in and really go out and win. And if they win, I hope they focus in, and I hope that they don't have the disruption in their playoff run that Ole Miss has had.
I think for BYU, they need to increase the funding in the football program, and that's been the major issue. They're towards the bottom in the Big 12, and they need to step up, especially because the basketball program is funded through the roof. And the fact is, I don't know if it's jealousy or envy or probably irritation. The football guys are irritated that the basketball gets shown so much love and the football doesn't, and that's, people don't want to hear that, but that's just a fact. And if you knew where we're getting that information, you would say, yeah, okay, that's true, because we'll just leave it at that. As far as what Penn State has from a distance, I mean, we know about, I grew up in New Jersey, and my mother's last name ended in a vowel, so Paterno was
there. You go.
Paterno was always big in our household, obviously for obvious reasons there. So with that in mind, we have a feel for it, but just the level of commitment that Penn State can offer, could you delve into that?
Well, if you look at what we've done and these are public numbers, these are not trustee numbers that I shouldn't reveal to you. These are public numbers. We've been top 5 in the country in football budget. We've been top 5 in football salaries, and we've been top 5 in recruiting budget. So the money has been there. Now, the NIL money gets tricky because where does it come from? How do you allocate it? And it's a whole different world this year with revenue sharing. But certainly we have not shied away from it. In fact, last year, really, our administration and our football program went all in to retain a bunch of guys. It just didn't work out the way everybody thought it was going to work out. And I think the danger is when you go that route where it's all about resources, it's easy to put the money together to build a roster, but can the right guy build a team? And I think that's where we kind of fell short a little bit this year. But the commitment is definitely there. Having said that, being on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it last night, it seems like some, people don't realize there's a lot of money in the LDS church. I mean, you're tithing people, so they've got some cash, and there's a lot of other people involved. You guys mentioned, how the cookie's going to crumble on this one. We'll find out to make that reference. But
Nice.
there's a bunch of guys out there that are on social media saying we've got this covered. So, we'll see where, as I said, we'll see where the cookie crumbles.
All right, you're doing very well here, Jay. Good work. I'm curious if we could step away from the money, and I don't know that you ever step away from the money that far, but let's just step away from the money for a second. What about the thought of somebody who's lived his life on the western side of the United States suddenly going back east, and can you hire enough assistants who are tied into that area? Does that even matter in the NIL house settlement money era? Does it just come down to tell the players how much do they think they're going to play and how much they're going to get paid, and all the relationship stuff is old school and out the window?
And I think that's a great question. I think the relationship stuff still matters. I started my coaching career at UVA, and Bronco Mendenhall came out and did a good job, but there was still almost a little bit of a disconnect between Virginia and where he was coming from, but he did a good job. So I think that's possible. I think sometimes you got to clear some hurdles to get here and do that kind of stuff. But if he comes here, we'll see, and certainly he'll have all the support that he would want. But again, I don't know if that's where that whole thing is right now, but certainly that is something that the NIL stuff does change that a little bit. But I don't know if it changed it that drastically.
Do you think Penn State has made its best offer to Kalani?
I don't know. I mean, we have not, we as a board, the compensation committee would be more informed on that. And I'm not on, I used to be on it, not on it now. But what's being reported would probably be at the top end of what we can throw at somebody. But again, I don't know if what's being reported is actually accurate, but we'll see.
Is there ever a sense in the Penn State fan base or donor base? I mean, chasing Ohio State, you're chasing. I mean, you're trying to slay the dragon here. Is that a good idea to put that on the coach, or does that put him in a bad spot from the beginning? Or it doesn't matter? That's the job. Suck it up, Buttercup.
All the above. No, I mean, the reality is Ohio State right now is performing at a level and playing at a level. And again, you could talk about all the money that they have or have not spent. And again, with that, in the NIL world, there's really not much transparency right now. So what's reported, who knows what they're really spending, but they're doing a great job coaching, doing a great job on the field. We've had a bunch of games over the last 10 years where we've lost in the last minute or so against them. So we've been right there. And if you look at the kind of talent that's come out of here, we're not that far off from them. It's just been, in some game day situations, we haven't closed the deal. So, but that's the nature of the business in this league. Now with the 12-team playoff, it does change the calculus quite a bit, because you don't have to win the league to get in to the playoff. And if you get in the league and you get hot, I mean, heck, Ohio State didn't win the league last year and they won the whole thing. But I think that's, the reality is that you're in a very, very competitive environment here in the Big Ten now.
Yeah, and that is something. I spent 23 years in newspapers as a beat writer, and here 14 with the newspaper here in town. So I've had an opportunity to travel around the country covering college football for BYU, Utah, and even Utah State for that matter, during my 14 years as the beat writer over there at the newspaper. And, it always amazed me that on our side of the country, we like football, but on your side of the country, which obviously is in the Southeast and it extends into portions of the Northeast, that it's not about liking football, it's about loving and living football. And you see that the pressure that comes with it. And you look at James Franklin, and he's fired basically midway through the season after having produced double-digit wins the prior 3 years. And I don't know, maybe SC, maybe Oregon that would happen, but I think that's about it on our side of the country, that there'd be no way they would fire somebody. Can you speak to the pressure that is involved in being the head football coach at Penn State? Because from our perspective, it looks like James Franklin did a halfway decent job at minimum.
Yeah, it's ramped up. And I think, and I don't know where, I think part of it is the game has become so professionalized. My dad coached here for 46 years, never talked about a salary, never talked about money. In fact, his last year at Penn State, Made his salary was 1.1 million. I think he was 10th out of 11 in the Big Ten. Only Northwestern was behind him. So the fan base didn't feel like, hey, this guy's getting all this money. He owes us. Plus, he had a track record over 46 years that was pretty good. So I think, but with the amount of money being spent on coaches, the amount of money being spent on players, and with legalized gambling like it is now, fans feel they look at the game as been professionalized. They feel a different type of ownership of the game, as well as being, quote unquote, more, in pun intended, more invested in the outcome of the game. I think there's more anger and vitriol when you don't meet what they expect. And heading into the season, I felt very, very nervous about what the expectations were for James Franklin and his team, because you don't just wave a magic wand, sign a bunch of players, and win the whole thing. And even after the Oregon game, there was not a sense of, hey, we just lost the number 2 or 3 team in the country. All the goals we have ahead of us are still there. Let's everybody calm down. Let's go win the next. It was almost like a morgue in town around here. Everybody was it's like somebody had died. And somebody said, look, we're 3-1 and we got, we can still make the playoff. We can still win the national championship. It just was one of those things. But the pressure definitely is ramped up.
So is the pressure ramped up to get Kalani's name on the dotted line? I mean, when you say it's day 51, I mean, I'm old enough to remember why people started counting days.
51.
Yeah, it was a hostage scenario. It was real life, not college football. But that does tell you a little bit about the intensity around this. So I'm curious, if it's not him, who is it, and how quickly does it have to move as signing day blows by us? The 3-day signing period blows by us here at the end of the week.
Well, you'd like to see it move sooner than later. You'd hate to go into championship weekend and we're still out there without a coach, given that we acted so early. I think UCLA and Virginia Tech were the only 2 schools ahead of us that fired their coaches. So now, all these days later, certainly there's a lot of pressure. And if it's not, if it doesn't end up being Kalani, I don't know who it's going to be. There's a lot of names being floated around. But we'll see. I mean, and Terry Smith is still sitting here at Penn State, having done a great job. When you look at the team where this team was playing at the level they were playing at when he took over and where he is now, the argument was he hasn't been a head coach. Well, 6 weeks later, he's halfway through. So certainly, I think he's still in the mix. I would hope, and certainly, I'm not sure exactly where they go next if this doesn't work out.
As I said, growing up in New Jersey, being Irish Italian, which there's a lot of us running around out there. It was, as far as college football goes, at that part of the country, it was Notre Dame or it was Penn State, and that was pretty much it. And that's what we thought of, and those are the teams we followed. How is it now in terms of the high school kids? The way we viewed it is like, well, if you're a real big time, you either went to Penn State or Notre Dame. What's the mindset in the region as far as what Penn State football is about for the high school recruits?
Well, I still think Penn State commands that kind of respect and attention from recruits. But with NIL and with the Big Ten really being established all the way into the East Coast, Ohio State, Michigan, those schools have done a great job getting to New Jersey. Rutgers is doing a better job of keeping some of those kids home. So I think there's more and more people now in that marketplace that are coming in and recruiting. Notre Dame still coming in there. You're even seeing some teams from the South come up and start to recruit in New Jersey and stuff like that. And you feel like, hey, you guys got enough players down there, just stay down there. But I mean, that's the reality. Everybody's looking for the best players wherever they are. But Penn State certainly still commands that kind of respect.
Jay, we appreciate the time and the perspective, letting us know how things are going in the other Happy Valley. Kalani will end up in Happy Valley one way or another. Thanks for your time.
Exactly. So thanks for having me on, guys. And I'm hoping BYU pulls this thing out this weekend. Really am.